Got a great run.
A long-range shot.
You know what it was? They got a 30-yard run off of it, and he shoots from 30 feet.
Yeah, if you got a play called Damian Lillard, something great happened.
Something about to happen.
All right.
We'll give it to him. We'll give it to him.
Well, Dame tweeted, he said, they know I'm watching, 20-yard gains.
There
so
we go.
He approved.
Yeah. Okay.
Boom.
That's not bad. You're an Oakland boy.
Yeah.
You got your former Oakland Raiders.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He raps, welcome to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols. I might cry because I am literally alongside, not over screens, not from their homes, alongside NBA champ Richard Jefferson, 2008 Finals MVP Paul Pierce. Malika Andrews is going to join us shortly from New York for our Nets preview segment. Also coming up, we will share the details of the NBA's investigation into the Clippers' recruitment of Kawhi Leonard in 2019. Stick around for that. But first, we begin with the NBA's version of Panda Watch. Yes, it's been about 3 weeks since Woj first reported James Harden wishes to be traded out of Houston. And yesterday, Adrian Wojnarowski and Ramona Shelburne reported the Rockets are increasingly expanding trade discussions beyond Harden's preferred destinations of Brooklyn and Philly. According to sources, several playoff caliber teams are becoming more comfortable, including the high-level players in the packages they are presenting in return for Harden. Now, by the way, Harden had a great showing last night's preseason game. 20 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 27 minutes of action. Richard, nobody doesn't think James Harden can't play, right? How quickly do you expect them to move him, or how much longer would you say he's going to be a Rocket, if I phrase it that way?
Well, I think it's a good sign that they're opening it up. Like, I think when you limit yourself to 2 or 3 teams and you don't like it, and it's like, look, James Harden has, I believe, 2 more years left on his contract. So you're not even just getting him for one.
Right.
Like, you have an opportunity, and we saw it with Kawhi Leonard. You saw it with Paul George. You see these guys have the opportunity to really kind of convince you that this is a great place to stay. But it's not just like Milwaukee or Brooklyn Nets or Philly. It's like there's other teams that I think they might have an opportunity to convince them. And I think 2 years is better than 1 year to convince a player.
When you talk about trying to add James Harden, you have to think about a few things. You know, now that you're opening it up to not only contenders, but how does he fit? How does he fit into our culture? Or if he's not going to a team that has championship aspirations or just a team with playoff aspirations, how does he fit with our young guys? You know, you have to ask yourself these questions because the things you've heard out of Houston, the partying, doesn't really fit our culture. Yeah, James Harden's a great player, but we're talking about building something here for the long run. Is that really fit with what we're trying to do moving forward? And that's what you have to ask yourself. So I believe he's going to be in Houston for the duration.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For the whole season?
Yes.
Past the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I don't know if I go that far, but I will say this. I don't know if this is going to get resolved quickly because as much as I think the Rockets we're seeing from Woj and Ramona's reporting increasingly are trying to get a deal done, it really depends on what the marketplace demands. It doesn't depend on how much you want to sell. And look, if he doesn't want to go to another team, who's to say that he won't act on that other team exactly how he's been acting in Houston?
Exactly.
That has made them feel like, oh man, maybe we do have to deal them.
That's
Remember,
what I'm talking about.
Tim McMahon's reporting at the beginning of all this was that the Rockets were, quote, willing to get uncomfortable. Well, James Harden has certainly made them uncomfortable. And all of a sudden, it sounds like they are making more phone calls. Well, if I'm on the other end of one of those phone calls, I want to know that James isn't going to be like that to such a degree that you, Houston, feel like you need to trade him.
I'm trying to tell you.
I agree.
Old dog, new tricks.
I agree, but if we learned anything from the Kawhi situation,
but Kawhi never did the thing. Kawhi was not in I'm going to.
Well, okay.
He was not in 2 cities that may contain nighttime establishments.
Okay,
I don't know where James was. He was not in two different cities when he was supposed to be in training.
But there was rumors that Kawhi, not that he quit, but that he wanted out of San Antonio and that his injury and how they handled. There was all this stuff. And so San Antonio was historically famous for taking care of their players and literally extending the careers of Manu and Tony and Tim. So to have Kawhi say it at the time that he did it, you're like, that's not on brand. There's something else here. And Toronto still took that on. And so I'm just saying that people have taken on, I don't want to say controversial, but guys that they weren't sure what they were going to get from or how they were going to handle being in that environment.
Listen, Kawhi is a champion.
Agreed.
He's a Finals MVP.
Agreed.
And he comes from a San Antonio Spurs culture.
But he was trying to leave.
So that's fine. But who doesn't want to deal with a Kawhi?
Yeah.
You know, he understands the urgency of practice and being on time, doing what's right. He's not a guy you're going to see in the streets. He does his work and he goes home. Like, you can live with that.
Yeah, okay. I agree.
So you have to ask yourself these questions. If James Harden comes aboard, can we live with that? There's only like 2 or 3 coaches that I can say can deal with him in the league. Doc, Popovich, and I'll think about the third.
Here's the other complicating factor in all of this. The Rockets are looking at what other teams have gotten in trade for guys that they think aren't, frankly, as good as James Harden. What Milwaukee just gave up for Drew Holiday, for example. So I've heard that. Well, Milwaukee just got 3 picks and blah, 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 blah. What Paul George took on the trade market, that kind of thing. But here's the difference. The difference is that the Clippers specifically needed Paul George to get Kawhi. That the Bucks specifically needed Drew Holiday to help keep Giannis. I don't see a team right now, at the start of the season, that specifically needs James Harden and therefore will overpay or pay at least to that level, even though it's a lesser player that has commanded that level before. Now, what might change is when we get to the trade deadline, because both of these conferences are pretty stacked this year, and you have a lot of teams that think that they can make it, and James might be a piece that a team that maybe loses its own superstar due to injury or something else happens where they suddenly are as desperate as the Clippers were or the Bucks were. I don't know if anyone's that desperate right now.
Can he sign an extension and then be traded? Like, could they extend him?
Yeah, they just offered him.
I know but I'm saying
2 years, $103 million. No, and by the way, it's not in his interest to sign an extension unless he is really sure of where he wants to go and that they're going to trade him.
Yeah.
Because then he's just locked into wherever they trade him for longer.
5 years.
So the extension scenario is more that he would get traded to a team that he approves and then signs an extension with that team.
That would actually increase the value of what you're
trading.
Yes.
But that's where his, quote, preferred destinations comes in.
Yeah.
Because if you're listening to this reporting that Houston is expanding beyond his, quote, preferred destinations, you're probably then only getting him for those 2 years, at least at the start. And again, yes, the Raptors certainly proved that it was worth the gamble with Kawhi. They only had 1 year with Kawhi, and they made it count.
It's a year and a half.
Well, that's why I say he's not going anywhere this year.
Okay. I can see it. I like, this is one of those ones where, look, James has proven that if he's unhappy, he will look unhappy.
And make the other people on the team know
Yeah.
how he feels. Let's talk over about the Clippers. Let's switch gears here. The NBA investigating allegations made against LA Clippers team and consultant Jerry West involving the free agency recruitment of Kawhi Leonard in 2019. Johnny Wilkes, a man who claims to be best friends with Kawhi's uncle Dennis Robertson,
Not anymore.
filed a lawsuit in LA County Superior Court against West and the Clippers, alleging that the team consultant owes him $2.5 million in an oral agreement made for helping the Clippers sign Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers issued the following statement, quote, "The lawsuit filed by Johnny Wilkes is replete with inaccuracies and the allegations are baseless. The Clippers fully cooperating with the NBA in its investigation, which is standard when these types of allegations are made. They are providing the NBA with evidence that the allegations are false." And Kawhi Leonard himself had this to say after last night's game.
How well do you know Johnny Wilkes, and did he play any role in your recruitment to this team, your decision to join this team in 2019?
Not at all. That has nothing to do with me. You know, I'm from LA, and you know, I grew up here my whole life, and out here, you know, people try to, you know, find any way to get some money. So it probably won't be the last. I know a lot of people out here.
Richard, this is not college recruiting, right? I mean, we don't usually see runners in the NBA, which is basically what this guy is alleging he was.
It's weird because you want to say, okay, was this introduction done during the Toronto, when he was in Toronto, before free agency? That would be the only things like, hey, I'm going to connect you, I'm going to do all of these things. But if it wasn't done during that like time period, there's nothing illegal here. This is professional sports. This is why it's done this way. No one cares.
First of all,
this is an LA guy. Tell him.
You don't got nothing signed from Jerry West. Like, look, hey, if I get you Kawhi 2.5, then this doesn't have any legs. It sounds like an AAU deal.
Yeah.
You know, like if you want my son or my nephew to come play with you, then it costs this money. That goes on the AAU. I know firsthand.
Producer Danny literally just said in Richard's IFB, Richard, how much did you get?
I got 0. I wasn't that good. See, like Paul was like #1 player coming out as a sophomore and as a junior. And he was top 10 everywhere.
You know what I got coming? I got a suit jacket. Just because that was the dress uniform with a clip-on tie.
That's it.
So that's what I got.
Yeah, Arizona, I didn't get anything.
Here's what I would say from an outsider's. I obviously was not on the phone with Jerry West or any of these people. I do not know what happened. I will look forward to the results of the investigation. But from an outsider's perspective, if they knew they could, quote, get Kawhi for $2.5 million,
they would have paid double that.
They would not have given up all of those draft picks for Paul George.
Yeah.
Right? Think about the price that they paid for Kawhi Leonard. We know the price they paid for Kawhi Leonard. It was a trade deal to the Oklahoma City Thunder that gave them their best young player and picks for the rest of eternity.
Man.
If all that they were going to get was, oh, this guy will get him for you, man, that would have been getting off late.
And then they have the voicemail as like evidence of Jerry West, and it's like I listened to it. There's nothing there. It's saying, hey, thank you. Like, we appreciate it. And, you know, he might have said a comment about the Lakers, which was true at the time, right? I'm not going to repeat, you know, the show that he was saying that the Lakers were, which was true. But there was nothing in that voicemail. So it's like, here's evidence of like him calling me and saying thank you. That's not evidence of $2.5 million. And so, you know, maybe there's more out there.
Let me ask you, so let's just say there's some legs to this and, you know, he's right on what he's saying. Okay, the NBA investigates. Okay, so what happens now? The trade is null and void?
No. What they do is
they fine you.
Remember Joe Smith?
You get a huge fine.
Remember Joe Smith? Where he had that kind of under-the-table contract and fire his agent. They could penalize him, take away draft picks, take away all that stuff. So that's the penalty. Now, that was hard for Minnesota because Minnesota with KG and all them, they weren't a free agent destination, so they really had to do it via draft picks. The Clippers, if they were to lose a couple of draft picks, and it would probably be after the draft picks that they were that the OKC got. So it really put them back like 5 or 6 years with draft picks, which could be detrimental.
It is funny to see this phone call paraded around because it doesn't actually prove the allegations involved, but also it's sort of holding up like, oh, look what Jerry West said about the Lakers. Well, Jerry West split from the Lakers is very well documented and well publicized.
And he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying at the time.
That is something. That is a matter of opinion. But I will just say that there's no scandal in the fact that Jerry West doesn't have the nicest things to say about the Lakers these days. That is, again, a split that's been well documented. All right, coming up, a plurality of NBA GMs pick Steph.
This time freezes. This is life 24 seconds at a time. This time breaks us. And this time makes us. Is this the greatest of all time? Actually, whose time is it? It's time to find out.
It's a make or miss league.
It's a make or miss league.
I'm not really sure about that.
It's a make or miss league.
Rachel, it's a make or miss league. How many times do I have to tell you?
Which one?
Too fast, dog.
So many make kerfuffles. Pistons Wizards, Bigs battling for position. Blake Griffin tosses Thomas Bryant aside.
Get out of here, little fella.
And then laughs about it.
Watch out, little fella.
He's laughing. That's what's disrespectful when somebody treats you like that and then starts laughing at you.
I mean, Blake's kind of sneaky, one of the best trolls in the NBA, right?
That's not even sneaky.
Hey, little fella. Hey, sit down right here for a little bit.
Here, get over here.
Hey, sit down.
He looks at him and laughs. He looks at
Like, you ain't about to do nothing. You ain't gonna do nothing. That little push ain't nothing.
Come on, man.
Hey,
he pours the water. That was a good one. What? That was amazing.
Right?
That right there is top 5 fan interaction of all time. This one.
And there we go. No, I'm fine. I don't mind being traded from the Clippers. Bye. I gotta go. See ya.
I'm good.
Mish scouting reports. Mavs down 2 in overtime, and Boban gets the play call. Nearly buries the game winner. Paul.
Oh my God! I don't want you taking that during regular season, Bo.
What don't you want in a preseason game, Paul? What don't you want from a game in a preseason game?
You can do anything in
double
preseason.
overtime.
You just don't want
You
an
don't want
overtime.
double overtime. It's already overtime.
No, so you don't want any more. You don't want any more overtime.
There is nobody who wants.
Let's have Boban shoot a 3. That's all we're gonna get. Let's get the hell out
I
of
know
here.
people say free basketball during the preseason, and you're like, no, it's costing me minutes of my life.
Yeah.
There you go.
They don't want this. Shoot a 3 and let's go home.
Make Flair. Hornets Magic. First, LaMelo hitting the 3.
Hey, let me tell you something. Melo gonna be nice. Hey, I already think he's better than his brother
I
right
think
now.
you got to say LaMelo
Right now.
while Carmelo is still in the league. I don't think we can.
Yeah,
do
his name is LaMelo.
I mean,
LaMelo
he
for
got
now.
flair.
Right? Look at this one.
He looked like J. Kidd with his passes, I'm telling you.
Well, they said down in the Australian League.
Oh,
that
look at
he
this.
was tearing it
That's
up with that.
He's got something
Like, they
to
thought
him.
his brother was J. Kidd. No, this is J. Kidd right here. This
That
is
right,
J.
that pass
Kiddish.
right there. Yeah, that pass.
One hand.
Right?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That'd be good. See,
Ooh.
we said LaMelo was already our league pass star for the whole season. We already know.
Okay. You just gotta keep.
know.
That's my rookie of the year right there.
In
Already?
Charlotte? Oh,
Yeah, in Charlotte, of course.
Yeah.
Miss recognition. Luka hanging out on the sideline. We've seen this before, Paul. Tries to give someone a fist bump.
Hey, you got to extend your arm out a little more, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to give it and put it in a visual.
Yeah.
She's not
He
even
did
looking.
his self,
Hey, I
right?
know you've been in America for a short while, but there's a certain type of way you have to adapt. You know, you gotta, like,
You
this
are guilty of this too, Paul. Look at this.
I'm looking at the crowd. I'm like, hey, I'm
He's in the
trolling.
crowd.
I'm
And he's a
trolling.
member
I'm
of
looking
the
up.
crowd.
I'm trolling the crowd, though.
Come on, man. Trying to
I'm
get his
trolling the
followers up.
crowd.
By
Like,
the way, no, I'm just joking. Jerry, long timer in DC.
That's my man, Jerry, too.
I was
Hey,
gonna say.
That's my man. I just didn't see
We
it.
love Jerry. Everyone in DC
If
loves
you've never
Jerry.
had to dap up yourself, then you're not in the right environment. Sometimes people just miss you. There's a lot going on.
Oh, man. I was caught in the moment. I just hit a game winner to put us up, and I was just trolling the crowd right
He called game.
He called game.
He
He
called
called
game.
game.
The man called game. All right, the NBA's annual GM survey is out. It's got some spice to it this year, guys. 81% of the GMs picked the Lakers to win the title again, which is not an unusual pick, but it's interesting that only the 2018 and 2019 Warriors had more consensus than that. It is a window into how dominant other teams consider the Lakers right now. The GMs also picked Giannis to be the MVP, which trends against, actually, what most media surveys have said. James Harden beat out LeBron for, quote, player who forces opposing coaches to ball, won out over Drew Holiday as the player switching teams who would have the biggest impact. And Miami's Eric Spoelstra named the NBA's best coach over Greg Popovich and Nick Nurse. And then this is interesting. The GMs still consider Steph Curry the best point guard in the NBA, but by a lot less. He only got 30% of the vote this year compared to 90% of the vote the year before. Damian Lillard finished second to him this year. Paul, if you had to pick one guy, you cannot hedge here. You have to vote for one guy like the GMs did. Who will you pick?
Originally, I said Luka Doncic, but if LeBron's the best player and he played point guard, how is he not the best point guard in the league? He led the league in assists. I mean,
Won the finals
I forgot LeBron just went to point guard, by the way, and he's clearly the best point guard in the league.
Okay, this survey is skewed here. Let me just first say this.
What do you mean skewed?
It's skewed is in the sense of like, you just can't just add the best player in the game, the finals MVP that led the league in assists, like, and then say he's 11%. So like, are they considering him a real point guard, or they're just saying?
I mean,
He was on
that
the
doesn't
point.
even make sense.
He was
That don't make
available
sense.
in
So they're
the
saying
point
Chris-
guard
so they're saying
start
Chris
spot
Paul-
for the All-Star game and All-NBA this year.
But,
So
but
he
if
is a
he's
point
the
guard.
best player on this list, but they're talking about when he plays, this is
He's
stupid.
the fifth point
This is
best
stupid.
point guard.
This is dumb.
Hey, this is like the year Bill Russell won MVP and wasn't even in the first 10 All-NBA.
Oh yeah, that's the type of still like. Wait, I know this is not a LeBron James like. This is not. We're not like talking about that. We're just like it doesn't make sense.
I
right?
get it.
Like Steph Curry, and I said it on the broadcast. Like Steph Curry has to reclaim his title as the best point guard. Like when LeBron James got hurt and Kawhi.
You just want Warriors fans.
No, they hate me anyway, so who gives a damn? But this is what I'm saying. When Bron got hurt and Kawhi won the championship and won the finals MVP, they were like, Kawhi's the best player on the planet. Giannis just won the MVP. Bron is probably the third or fourth. You have to show up every single year. Now, he might be the greatest shooter ever, right? Like he will go down as that, but you have to reclaim your title every single year.
Yeah.
And Dame Lillard did some things last year from that point guard spot
This is just like boxing. When you don't fight for a year, you get stripped of your title, and you got to go back and fight for it again.
Thank you.
It's the same difference. Now, we know how amazing Steph Curry is, Dame Lillard. They're amazing, but you got to reclaim that. Dame Lillard has some phenomenal games. But if LeBron is a point guard, he has to be the best point guard.
Yeah, led the league in assists. Oh, whatever. Who cares?
DM survey, always fun. Up next, we take an in-depth look at the Brooklyn Nets' upcoming season. How high should our expectations be for KD and Kyrie in their first year of playing together? Stick around to find out. 7 Eastern, then Kyrie, KD, and the Nets take on the Celtics. Over on ESPN at 10:30, the Suns hosting the Lakers. All right, guys, we are just 4 days away from the start of the NBA season. And you know what that means. The Jump's previously on segments are back. This is like when your favorite TV show returns from hiatus. We're going to catch you up on everything that happened since the last time you saw them. So now it is time for Previously on the Brooklyn Nets.
I know my post-ups are negotiable, but I think 4.5 works, like 8.
I mean, we negotiated. I thought we was going to do 2.5 post-ups a game. The half one is like, I throw you the ball in the post and you just throw it right back out to me.
On paper, the Nets should be right in the mix for being a contender.
But this is all dependent on Kevin and Kyrie being healthy.
Steve Nash news hit the media like a bombshell kind of out of nowhere.
How did you hear, Spence?
Well, it just shares break news, and you kind of just, it's law once they say it.
It's been something that I've thought about in the back of my mind and gained momentum with that thought that it's time for me to step out and take a challenge.
He definitely brings attributes and traits that I think are unique to this situation.
I can't help but compare Steve Nash to Steve Kerr, another guy who came in without coaching experience, although I guess Steve Nash was probably a little better player.
Kevin Durant returning to action last night. Man, this was so great. First time since tearing his Achilles in Game 5 of the 2019 Finals.
It will take him a while to truly feel back in his own body. He's on a new team with a new coach, and that will also be an adjustment.
I think it's realistic to think 90% of his old self, maybe better as the season goes on. And that's an all-NBA player. I mean, that's how good Kevin Durant is.
And he's ready to address the NBA like the numbers on the house.
We now welcome in NBA reporter Malika Andrews. Welcome, my friend. You will be covering the Nets this season for ESPN. And Malika, you heard the cliffhanger heading into this season, the long-awaited debut of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the court together. You just heard Zach Lowe say 90%. What are your expectations for year one of the KD and Kyrie show?
I mean, they're high because this organization's expectations of themselves are high, Rachel. We hear these guys talk about, well, we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves. Well, we don't want to say we're all coming back and we're out here to win it and take over the East. But at the same time, when I talk to folks around that team, they say they know. They know what they're going for. They know that not making an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, as high as those standards may be, that is already what's expected of them, and it's what they're expecting of themselves. So, yeah, I expect that of them.
So my thing is, everybody has expectations for this team. I think when you really break it down, if you were to compare it to Clippers, you have all of this new talent coming together, and they have all of the ability. They have a great bench. They have a great staff. I actually love the staff that Steve Kerr has brought in, right? He's brought in other players. Steve Nash. He's brought in other players. He brought in D'Antoni. So he's got a great staff there to help him navigate the first year coaching. But I think this is kind of like the Clippers, where it's like they need to develop their chemistry, and it's not like championship or bust. I think the Clippers put too much pressure on themselves, and I think when they failed, that pressure fell on them too.
Right.
So I think the Nets are just going to take it easy. I don't think they have to win a championship for this year to be successful.
Well, when you add arguably the best player in the league to your roster, it's always going to be championship or bust. Now, if Kevin Durant can play at an MVP level, top 5, top 3, then this team has a chance to get to the finals. These are the expectations that come with a superstar like Kevin Durant. And then you have Kyrie Irving in his own right. He's a superstar who's won a championship. That's always how it's going to be. LeBron goes somewhere, KD goes somewhere. Expectations are championship.
Well, speaking of Kyrie, all eyes are going to be on him tonight because it's just preseason, but it's his first game back in Boston. Remember, he didn't play when the Nets visited there last year. So, Malika, is there any bad blood left on the Celtics side after Kyrie's free agency departure a couple seasons ago?
Well, when you ask them, they're going to say no, and they've done pretty well in their own right as Kyrie has departed, right? It's not like they've fallen off a cliff. So I think the Celtics are happy with where they're at. Brad Stevens has said repeatedly that he's happy with the way, things ended with Kyrie, with him moving on. I think it's Celtics fans, right, that are still kind of hanging on to that a little bit, and potentially rightfully so, right? Kyrie Irving sat in front of them and said that he intended to re-sign, and then that didn't happen. That's the business of basketball. But I was at that game in Boston last year, Rach, when Kyrie Irving did not play. And when I walked around the outside of TD Garden, there were literally posters of his face with the word coward printed over it. So I don't think this game tonight, even though it is just the preseason, is going to carry the same weight that it would have had there been fans in the building. I truly believe that if there were those folks there, they would let Kyrie know how they feel about not having him on the team anymore, and then about having him not have played last season. He was injured. He was dealing with that shoulder injury. But to the fans, that still stings a little bit. And there's a reason why this game is on Christmas Day, is also Boston Nets. It's because the league knows there's a little something there.
I don't know, Paul. Do Celtics fans have long memories?
We hold grudges. We definitely hold grudges. And he would have got it. He would have got lit up if the fans were out there. And listen, this is going to continue every year until his career is over. Every time he comes to the Garden, if there's fans in there.
Paul still doesn't like me for the first 2 years of my career. What we did to Boston.
That's just good taste.
I was going to say, I don't think it's just because of that he doesn't like it, Richard.
That's what I'm going to say.
Let's get to the plot twist for the Nets this offseason. The rumors of James Harden coming to Brooklyn to join KD and Kyrie. So, Richard, how do you think those rumors impact the Nets heading into the regular season, especially the guys on the roster who know if James Harden did come there, they would probably be the ones shipped out?
Well, I had a conversation via the Nets with Sean Marks, and Sean Marks was saying, like, hey, I've had open conversations with all of our players. So they know if they need to sit down. And it's like, look, there's certain times where you can tell players that, look, I've had no conversation about this. They understand that James Harden is one of the most popular players and one of the best players in the league. So, like, these guys know. Like, Spencer Dinwiddie, if he's sitting in an office, he's like, yeah, like, if James Harden is going to come here, like, I get it. Like, I understand. But it all is about conversation. And I think the Nets have had a great conversation with their players to let them know, like, hey, right now, this is our team and this is what we're moving forward with. I don't think that there's that much stress because players know about kind of the lifestyle that we've signed up for.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that they think they can win a championship with the roster on hand right now without James Harden. Yeah. Yes, you add a James Harden. It does enhance your chances to win. But look, like I said, KD. You got KD, that's champion. Kyrie, underrated players in my eyes in the league. A guy who can carry an offense. Dinwiddie, they got pieces here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not messing with
Landry
this because
Shamet,
think about this.
Joe Harris.
When you get a veteran like James Harden, you can kind of bump heads. KD and Kyrie, these guys are going to fall in line. They're going to play the role they ask you to play, and they're going to play it to the best of their ability because they respect these guys. And that's what you need in trying to build a championship team.
Well, and day in and day out, I do not expect this to be be a distraction for the Nets. We've asked different players from Kyrie to Kevin Durant to Karis LeVert to Spencer Dinwiddie to Jared Allen. The latter three, their names have all been involved in potential packages if that were to come to fruition. And all of them have said, look, James Harden is not in our practice today. He is not distracting us. In fact, maybe look at the Rockets and see what's happening over there. That may be more of a distraction for his teammates right now. And like Richard said, I hate to echo Richard, but Sean Marks does have that open door policy. I know, it's really hard for me, but Sean Marks does have that open door policy. And he says that that's how he's working through this with his players. And it does seem like the Nets have, from everyone that I've talked to within that organization, there is no trade for James Harden that is imminent. They had some discussions. They were brief. They did not go very far. And Sean Marks being honest with his players and saying, hey, that's what happened. And now we're moving forward. We like this group. They have to believe what's done is done. And right now, what's being done is not James Harden imminently coming to the Brooklyn Nets.
All right, well, let's look at the games that Nets fans should binge watch this season. Brooklyn hosting Golden State on opening night. They face Boston on Christmas, as we were just discussing. And they see the Bucks for the first time on January 18th. Malika, I know you will be covering a bunch of those games, either in person or remotely, depending on how the NBA opens up here over the coming months. But we appreciate your time, and we will come back to you often about the KD and Kyrie show. Coming up on this show, guys, four-time NBA All-Star Shawn Marion joins the jump. Paul and I are going to ask the Matrix about his former teammate turned coach Steve Nash. We've got some great "What were you thinkings?" and we're kicking Richard off the set.
Yeah,
so
we don't
really,
need you, Richard, for this one.
it's a segment you should watch because you promised it's Richard free.
Yeah, you're welcome.